Good evening. I am Michelle Sturgis of the NAACP. On behalf of the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, and the News-Gazette, I welcome you to tonight's candidate forum. Tonight's forum is for the Democratic primary office of Alderman Ward 2, City of Urbana. Because of the COVID pandemic, we are unfortunately not presenting this forum in person. We have received many questions for these forums. Similar questions which have been submitted have been grouped together, and consequently, your question may not be asked in precisely the way you submitted it. Due to limited time, we may not be able to get to all of the submitted questions. After the forum, this video will be available on the League's YouTube channel and Facebook page after January the 12th. It will also be broadcast by UPTV. The UPTV schedule is available on the City of Urbana website. I will be your monitor for this forum. The order for candidates is alphabetical. Therefore, Christopher Evans will open.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Chris Evans, and I've lived in Urbana for 27 years. I am got my degree in painting at the University of Illinois. I am a professional artist. I've also been a cabinet maker, and I've also been in commercial radio, and I also worked with the Independent Media Center and was a journalist with them. And I also was 10 years into with the Champaign Urbana Citizens for Peace and Justice activist group, and did a lot of work around issues of civil rights, police brutality, and environmental racism, and just about anything that came along our way for about 10 years. So I've been a frequent critic of the Urbana City Council over the years. And I thought this year that instead of always complaining, I would roll up my sleeves and get involved and help out. So that's why I'm running. I just want to help out. I love Urbana, and I want to see it do better.
Okay, and thank you, Mr. Evans. And I apologize for that real quick because I hadn't quite finished my spiel, but I'll finish real quick so everybody will be on one accord. So I apologize for that, but you did a great job. Going a little bit further, two more points I need to make. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an opening statement. I will then ask questions submitted prior to the forum, and candidates will each have 1 minute to answer these questions. At the end, each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Candidates will kindly refrain from any negative attacks on the other candidate, will not mention the other candidate by name, and will speak only to what they plan to do if elected to office. Mr. Evans will begin his opening statement. Mr. Evans, if you want to reframe that or state that again, you're more than welcome.
Well, I don't know what I would change. Do I need to do it over, or
you don't have to? I was just giving you the option if you wanted to.
I'm fine.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll have Mr. Sachs and then Mr. Hanson.
Thank you for inviting me to speak with you tonight. I'm Erik Sachs. I'm the current Ward 2 council person, having been recently appointed by the mayor and other members of the city council to fill the current vacancy. I'm an associate professor at the University of Illinois, and I've lived in Ward 2 for more than 10 years. Urbana, and especially Ward 2, is a great place to live. We have quiet tree-lined streets, lots of beautiful historic architecture. It's awesome. As many of you know, our ward is under constant pressure by developers to replace our historic and beautiful houses with large and often low quality apartment buildings. Yet in our downtown area, we have large areas of open parking lots that have remained undeveloped for more than a decade. So during the next few years, Urbana is going to be developing a new comprehensive plan. So this is a critical time to ensure that the city renews and strengthens its commitment to preserving our historic residential neighborhoods while at the same time revitalizing our downtown with a mixture of new housing and shops. If elected, I will work with the Ward 2 community towards these goals. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Hanson.
Good evening. Thanks for organizing all of this. My name is Christopher Hansen. I've lived in Ward 2 for over 18 years. I lived in Ward 2 as a student, teacher, a tenant, a homeowner, a business owner, and a landlord. I lived in the Illinois Street Residence Hall for 2 years when I first came to the U of I studying electrical engineering. Then I moved to an apartment on West Green Street, and then I bought my home just a few blocks from there. In that time, I've experienced life in Ward 2 from many different perspectives, and I think that makes me uniquely qualified to represent the residents of Ward 2. And I'm eager to learn about more perspectives as I go. As a member of the public, I've attended every city council meeting for the past year, and I've spoken at nearly every one of those meetings. And I send information to the city council and the mayor on a weekly basis. I've also worked closely with dozens of local residents and local civil rights groups to see further change in the city. I've also attended and spoken at every Civilian Police Review Board meeting and every meeting of the Human Relations Commission for more than a year, as well as numerous other Urbana Board and Commission meetings. In the past 4 months, I've authored nearly 100 articles about Urbana city business on my website, checkcu.org, as well as several articles for the public eye. I've also made thousands of pages of public records available to the public for free. I'm very familiar with the Urbana City Code, the Illinois State Constitution, the Open Meetings Act, the Freedom of Information Act, and the Citizen Participation Act. I have repeatedly demonstrated myself even more competent in these areas of expertise than Urbana City legal staff. I'm the only person in a decade to have experienced Urbana's police complaint appeals process, and I'm the only person to have experienced Urbana's human rights appeals process in more than 2 decades. I believe that my 14+ years of restoring old homes shows how much I value Urbana's historic character. My success as an entrepreneur and my relationships with the student population show that I know how to make smart changes and improvements and welcome new ideas. As your alderman, I believe that I can strike the right balance and represent the greater of viewpoints possible. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We'll now begin our questions. First question, we're going to start with Mr. Evans, and then Mr. Sachs, and then Mr. Hanson in that order. First question, Mr. Evans. Why is the city of Urbana important to you? Second part of the question, how are Ward 2 as the city as a whole made better because of your service on the city council?
Well, Urbana is just a wonderful place. I've lived here for, like I said, for 27 years. I frequent downtown Urbana a lot, Lincoln Square. I love the people. We're great people. And, you know, Urbana deserves good representation and a good government. I think, you know, Ward 2 is a unique place. We've got a large apartment complex on University and Lincoln, huge one going up there. And then you have all these nice homes throughout the ward. You know, obviously, you know, maintaining the quality of life in Urbana is going to be critical. And, you know, I hope that we can just encourage citizens to come to Urbana City Council meetings and make their voice be heard. And I'll certainly, as council members, seek out their voice and you know, just hopefully we can maintain the quality.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Sachs. I'll read it again. Why is the city of Urbana important to you? Second part of the question, how are Ward 2 and the city as a whole made better because of your service on the city council?
Oh, thank you. So it's important to me because, of course, I live here. I'm dedicated. I have a great job here in town at the university, so I plan to be here for the long term. Like many of my neighbors, I care about the neighborhood and seeing it succeed and be well preserved. It's a great place. You know, we're close to all sorts of shops downtown and amenities on campus. In terms of my contributions that could be used to make Urbana a better place, I think I'll try to make sure that our character of this historic neighborhood, these historic neighborhoods is preserved. and that the kind of development that does happen is high quality, and especially that we redevelop the downtown and revitalize it. We have a great opportunity, but with all that empty space down there. But until we really put in an opportunity for people to live down there and shop down there in greater numbers, we'll be missing the mark.
Thank you. Mr. Hansen, same question. Why is the city of Urbana important to you? Second part of the question, how were Ward 2 and the city as a whole made better because of your service on the city council?
Well, the obvious answer is that Ward 2 is important to me because it's where I live. I came here to study in college, electrical engineering, and it's where I became an adult. So like I said, I started off living in the dorms, and I was a student here, and that's when I grew my business. I actually started my business in high school, and so I developed a lot of resources in Urbana. And by the time I graduated college, this was kind of like a new home for me. And so I bought my home here, and I've stayed. I think Urbana has one of the most excellent layouts in terms of what you can access at the shortest possible distance that I've seen in a city, and that includes larger cities, Chicago or Hong Kong, for example. Urbana is one of the most accessible places we have. And so as far as what I can do better because of my service, well, first of all, I've already been doing a lot in terms of changing things like police oversight and human rights. The CPRB and the HRC are already making changes because of my work, and I can plan to continue that until representing the people around me.
Thank you. Second question. It's a two-part question as well. What unaddressed issues in Ward 2 are priorities for you? Second part, what issues are your priorities for the city as a whole?
Do I start?
Mr. Evans, yes.
Yeah. Main thing I would like to see happen is affordable housing for low-income people, and to see wherever we can expand that is a big need, especially with the pandemic. We're going to be seeing more unemployment, and these eviction moratoriums are going to expire. So low-income housing, wherever we can, is going to be real important for Ward 2. I also would hope that we would invest eventually in a behavioral health treatment center that would be countywide. So we would do that in cooperation with City of Champaign and County and University of Illinois. But creation of a mental health treatment center, behavioral treatment center, where substance abuse and mental issues can be dealt with on an inpatient basis, and avoid using the criminal justice system to address those issues.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. Mr. Sachs, same question for you. It's a two-part question. What unaddressed issues in Ward 2 are priorities for you? Second part, what issues are your priorities for the city as a whole?
So I think in Ward 2, I spoke to some of this. I think the comprehensive plan, which is going to be developed over the next few years, the new one, is going to be an important issue to get right for Ward 2, making sure the zoning doesn't drastically alter the opportunities for preserving the neighborhood. I think things like street repairs, we have a lot of streets that are major thoroughfares that are in need of a lot of work right now, Springfield, for example. And trees. I think we have a great urban forest, but we've lost a lot of trees in the last few years. I'd like to see trees replanted. On the city as a whole, I think, as I mentioned, the downtown area, revitalizing that is important. I know the city is working on some aspects of addressing mental health issues separately from policing issues. I think that's critically important to get right. And of course, there's social justice issues that we have to stay on top of as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hansen, same question for you. It's a two-part question. What unaddressed issues in Ward 2 are priorities for you? Second part, what issues are your priorities for the city as a whole?
Well, there are a number of issues that are of specific interest to Ward 2 residents. Now, as far as unaddressed issues, I have to say, I agree that infrastructure in terms of roads and sidewalks are definitely items that have gone unaddressed for a long time. In fact, the city is spending a far smaller portion of its budget on those types of infrastructure items than many other surrounding municipalities do. As far as the city as a whole, we have some very serious fundamental governance problems. Open meetings, free speech, access to public records. Those items have been brought up repeatedly at city council meetings. I've been working on those vigorously. Those first, fundamental governments, and then we can have meaningful things, meaningful police reform and mental health reform. We need to really work on police reform, and Urbana can be a leader in that area of change. So I'm going to focus on that.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Evans. This is, and gentlemen, this is a three-part question as well. First part, do you know how the city defines properties and what the city does to deal with them? Second part, are there any designated problem properties? Last part, how can landlords be held accountable?
Well, defining properties, I mean, I know it's divided between industrial, commercial, and residential. As far as, you know, what we can do for problem landlords, the city has had a long standing policy of dealing with problem landlords. And there's been, I think, there's been a couple of landlords that have been put out of business because of running poorly maintained properties. I mean, certainly we can enforce the codes, make sure that housing is livable. And if the tenants have a complaint, they can always come to the city and get those things taken care of. So just, you know, city enforcing its own policies would go a long way toward, you know, keeping housing stock, you know, good and healthy.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs, same question. I'll read it again. It's a three-part question. Do you know how the city defines problem properties and what the city does to deal with them? Second part, are there any designated problem properties? And the last part, how can landlords be held accountable?
Yeah, so I think the city has to, you know, the council develops the codes and the city would then implement them. So I think obviously there are processes for people to resolve issues with problem properties. If those are insufficient, then it would be valuable for people to make them known to the council and request revisions of the code to enable those problems to be solved.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, same question. I'll repeat it. It's three-part question. It is a three-part question. Thank you. Do you know how the city defines problem properties and what the city does to deal with them? Second part of the question, are there any designated problem properties? And last, how can landlords be held accountable?
I don't know if there's a technical definition for problem property. I mean, I can certainly think of things that I consider problem properties in Ward 2. What does the city do to deal with them? Well, we do have, depending on the type of problem, we have a city right-of-way person. So if it was, say, something that was overgrowing into a street or sidewalk or some issue like that, I think we have one individual who is dedicated to those types of responses. I forget his name, but you can email or call that person if you have an issue, and he'll come out and look at the property and then make an assessment. And it can range anything from there's garbage all over the lawn to, you know, the house is falling down. And then as far as what the city council can do, I don't know that the council should interface with that problem immediately. I mean, we have city staff that are kind of to work on that. I can tell you, I would not like to see the problem solved, and that is by classifying certain types of people. Say, if we made an assertion that students were loud, therefore they shouldn't be allowed to live in the neighborhood, or something of that nature. I'll leave it there. Thanks.
Thank you. Next question. I'll start with Mr. Evans. How will you represent the variety of residents in your ward so that everyone's concerns are heard? For an example, families, students, renters, landlords, homeowners, etc.
Well, I would be listed on the website, the Urbana City Council website. I would have my phone number published. I would have my email address published so they can contact me anytime. I'm in the neighborhood a lot. I don't have a car, so I walk a lot, so I'm always around. So I will, I'll be willing to reach out to anybody and everybody in Ward 2 and anybody in the city of Urbana if they have a concern, and I'll just be available.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs, same question. How will you represent the variety of residents in your ward so that everyone's concerns are heard? Example, families, students, renters, landlords, homeowners, etc.
Yeah, so I'm very keen to make sure I know what the people in the ward think is important, what they'd like to see addressed. My email address is available on the city website, and my number is available there as well. And in addition, I do walk around and chat with people, and I found this gathering signatures earlier this year quite interesting. I would often ask people what they thought were the important problems for the ward, what needed to be addressed. And in addition, I would encourage people, if there are some issues that are important to them, to not only reach out to us, but to come to the city council meeting and engage in the public comment time and do that. In addition, I post to the WUNA website listserv. So there's ways to interact in a group setting as well.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Hanson. How would you represent the variety of residents in your ward so that everyone's concerns are heard? Example, families, students, renters, landlords, homeowners, etc.
So, as I mentioned in my opening statement, I've walked a lot of those perspectives of life. I already have about 2-year history of being deeply engaged with many concerned residents of Urbana and Champaign. I currently field about 50 to 100 emails per day, mostly about police reform and social justice issues, and interface with those people through my website and articles. As I said, I'm someone who has spoken virtually every single city council meeting the last year, and I email the city council multiple times a week, and I know what it can feel like to not be heard and not be responded to, and I have no intention of following a path like that. So if anyone wants to contact me, you're going to hear back from me, and I'm going to bring up your issues and your concerns at city council meetings as you see them, not as I see them.
Thank you. Next question. I'll begin with Mr. Evans. This is also a 2-part question, okay? What is your plan for regulating construction and design so as to improve the aesthetics of projects? Second part of the question, what can be done within the regulation regarding climate change?
Wow. Well, I mean, I certainly want to look at the code of Urbana and see what we currently have in place as far as safety aesthetics. I'm open to, most aesthetics. We want things to kind of be, fit together in the same neighborhoods that kind of have a similar feel, and not place gargantuan apartment complexes next to, single, family dwellings. So there are some aesthetics. I certainly would support the prohibition against digital billboards. As far as climate change, I mean, this is going to be an ongoing technological question as developments progress. I mean, the city of Urbana should make itself available to every kind of environmental technology, and I would be in support of that. I think going forward, we got to be sustainable and deal with climate change.
Thank you. Same questions, Mr. Sachs, and I'll repeat it again. It's a two-part question. What is your plan for regulating construction and design so as to improve the aesthetics of projects? Second part, what can be done within the regulations regarding climate change?
Yeah, so for design of new construction, obviously we currently have zoning regulations. We have different boards which will review these things. Where we can get into real trouble now is where there's exceptions requested and whether those exceptions really are in the long-term interest of the community. So I will look very closely at that. I think our opportunities to improve the regulations to better ensure that construction is of high quality and fits with the neighborhood will come through that comprehensive plan in the next few years. So making sure we don't get rid of the zoning that we want and having the good rules there for the kind of construction we'd like to see. As for climate change, I think we have a lot of work to do. I think we can pretty well see that what's coming is electrification of the fleet. Urbana could get ahead of the curve on that by providing charging in parking areas, especially where there's a lot of traffic for shops. I think having new construction that incorporates renewables would be desirable and encouraging that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hansen, same question for you, and I'll repeat it. It's a two-part question. What is your plan for regulating construction and design so as to improve the aesthetics of projects? And the second part, what can be done within the regulations regarding climate change?
The first part, we need to keep in mind that we have a plan commission, we have a design review board, and we have a zoning board of appeals. I think it's often phrased as problematic when there's some type of contentious problem put forward and it causes a lot of argument in the community. I actually think it's a good thing that we get so many people to show up and say, you know, I want this, I don't want that. We get a lot of community involvement there, and that's great. And issues of aesthetics would be really difficult to regulate at a government level. I'm more concerned with quality of construction, which maybe in itself would promote better aesthetics. But I'm more concerned with quality of construction, and maybe we can look at that. But the design review board is the proper place to issue, I think, aesthetic concerns. As far as climate change goes, oh, and by the way, I've done plenty of restoration work, historic restoration work, and I always use the best materials possible. But it's just not clear to me that I can make someone else fit an aesthetic opinion. As far as climate change goes, I'm out of time, but Urbana does have negotiated 100% renewable energy rates, and that's one of the best, easiest things we do to work on that issue locally.
Thank you. Next question is a two-part question as well. Mr. Evans, I'll begin with you. What prior experiences have you had that prepares you for this office? Second part, what have been your prior involvement with the city?
Probably one of the most profound prior experiences I've had is I've had over 70 police contacts on the street. So I am very keen on reforming the police and what some of the issues are. I've taken the Citizens Police Academy class back in the 90s. I've been on the homeless task force in the city of Champaign. And I've been working with the activist group, Champaign-Urbana Citizens for Peace and Justice. And we did a lot of work regarding police brutality, videotaping the police, environmental racism of the Fifth and Hill toxic site, of course, the Kewan-Carrington debacle, and for other incidents of police brutality with Brandon Ward and Gary McFarland, and then Matt Rush, the officer Matt Rush, getting him out. So that's my main experiences.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs, same question. It's two parts. What prior experiences have you had that prepares you for this office? Second part, what have been your prior involvement with the city?
think I'm getting quite the experience as the current alderman for the ward, and a lot of training materials, as well as just the hands-on experience and learning the procedures and where things are at, where things are going. I've tended to engage with the planning commission meetings from time to time as issues that seem very important have come up, as well as some of the city council meetings on issues that are important to me. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, same question, is two parts. What prior experiences have you had that prepares you for this office? Second part, what have been your prior involvement with the city?
Well, I've been participating and speaking with both the Champaign and Urbana city councils and their various boards and commissions for the last 2 years. I've probably attended and spoken at 100 different meetings in that time. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I'm the only resident anywhere that's participated in the Civilian Police Review Board appeals process in the last decade or so, and the only person to ever have gone through an appeals process arguing human rights. And I had to sit there and argue against the city attorney. And so I've had probably more interfaces with the Urbana city government as a civilian than perhaps any other person. And that makes me uniquely experienced to come at it from the other side and see how we can solve these problems if I were a city council member. And I've also had a lot of experience with the police. I've been arrested, I've been jailed, I've been charged for a crime that never happened. And that makes me uniquely experienced. So I think I can bring a lot of perspective from how citizens interact with Urbana from a resident side.
Thank you. Next question. Mr. Evans, I'll begin with you. Mayor Marlin has spoken of the difficulties of filling board and commission seats. How do you think this could be improved?
Well, she's doing everything she can. I think, maybe investing in some mailers to residents to tell them that these positions are available. Using the public Channel 6 channel to advertise these positions. And, it's going to take educating the public as to what all the commissions, I mean, most people don't know these commissions even exist. So it's going to take some advertising, maybe take out some ads on radio. I think, public service announcements on the radio and maybe television to commercial television to, get the word out about these positions being available.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs, same question. Mayor Marlin has spoken of the difficulties in filling board and commission seats. How do you think this could be improved?
Yeah, it's an interesting challenge because it's a lot of work and not a lot of quick payback for the people involved. Obviously, it's a donation of their time and skills. I think reaching out to people who have skills, who see the importance of the offering their time and services to the city and encouraging them to participate as much as possible. I think also reaching out to the community and requesting greater civility would really be valuable. I think a lot of people might be reticent to join some of these boards given the kind of difficult and personal attacks that they often receive. So the community plays a role in this too, and I think we have to have a discussion about that, what kind of community we want to be.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, same question. Mayor Marlin has spoken of the difficulties of filling board and commission seats. How do you think this could be improved?
The more precise way to ask that question is that Mayor Marlin has had difficulty filling some board and commission seats, because it's not the case that all boards and commissions have struggled with having all of their seats filled. I think most notably, we're talking about the Civilian Police Review Board and the Human Relations Commission are two boards that I can think of where they have almost never had a full board in the last year or two. And I've spoken to numerous people who have applied or have contemplated applying to these boards. And the reason that they haven't applied, and it's the same reason I wouldn't apply, is that they don't feel, if you look at the ordinance of, say, the Civilian Police Review Board, they don't feel that they have an opportunity on that board to be meaningful or effective, because they are robbed of any meaningful action that they can take in regards to, say, something like police oversight. And so they would not waste their time attending a board that they didn't feel was meaningful. And so the solution to that is not to advertise the position more vigorously. The solution to that is to reform the board so that people want to be on it, so that they can see that as a meaningful opportunity. There is no lack of civil engagement and social justice interest in Urbana. They just want it to actually do something.
Thank you. Next question. I'll begin with Mr. Evans. What is the role of a council member in ensuring the city conducts business in an ethical, transparent, and accountable manner?
Obviously, all meetings public, and transparent. Also, I would like to see an easier access to the archived meetings on the website, so that citizens can go back and look at meetings. I think the citizens just got to hold us accountable, but they need to have access. So making sure that everything's recorded in public and on the website, that would be my answer.
Thank you. Same question, Mr. Sachs. What is the role of a council member in ensuring the city conducts business in an ethical, transparent, and accountable manner?
Well, in short, the council person is responsible for doing all of those things and helping make sure that the city does them as well. I think the city, in my view, does a good job of recording the meetings and making them available on the website. It is very organized. I think where the city could improve is in outreach. I think it's not always easy to know when an important meeting is coming up or an important issue in a particular neighborhood is coming up. Often it's just a sign on the side of a street or something like this. And I think in this day of media, internet, we can have a more effective and targeted way of reaching out to people so that they're aware of all the things that are on the city website and all the things that the city is discussing and participate more fully.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, same question. What is the role of a council member in ensuring the city conducts business in an ethical, transparent, and accountable manner?
Well, many people don't know this, but Urbana has something called an ethics officer. Unfortunately, the ethics officer is also the Urbana city attorney, the very person who is tasked with defending the city from any type of liability or wrongdoing. So we have a serious conflict of interest there. I've said this many, many times. Urbana needs some type of ethics board. Either the Human Relations Commission needs to undertake that task, or there needs to be a new board made. I do not think we as politicians can be trusted to do all of that. I think the residents need to be able to take those issues forward and challenge us with any of our failures to be ethical. There are issues with access to meetings. We have content-based speech restrictions in Urbana. We've seen numerous FOIA violations, and that's not a hollow claim. We have lawsuits that have been lost, and also letters from the Illinois Attorney General indicating that Urbana has been frequently violating the FOIA law. And as an example of access to meetings that was mentioned, if you wanted to go back, say, a video or audio recording of a Urbana Civil Service Commission meeting from before March of this year, you can't. It doesn't exist. Those meetings were never recorded. They were held on the second floor behind a locked door. So we do have problems with access for things, and that's a big problem.
Thank you. Next question, Mr. Evans. What do you think will be your biggest challenge if you are elected?
Getting the police to change. It's been that way for the past 15 years I've been involved in this. I would like to see the police department be transparent, and that all dash cam, body cam, police reports, testimony Anything the police do, all that work product should be available in public. The police have the power to, baton and tase and hit and use lethal force against citizens. The stakes are too high to have a secret police force or a police force that you can't hold accountable. So that is the biggest challenge. The community justice system as a whole is a very hard beast to move in any direction. And hopefully with continued pressure from the citizens, we can get some improvements and have a police department that we can be proud of.
Thank you. Mr. Sachs, same question. What do you think will be your biggest challenge if you are elected?
I think, well, there's two major things. I think, again, with this comprehensive plan, making sure that it really does help Ward 2 and not give it away to the developers. I think that's a big one. I think the largest challenge actually is getting a large amount of the community involved and engaged and participating. I think most of the time people are busy and do not participate. And so actually it's probably a relatively small and consistent group of people who participate most of the time.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, same question. What do you think would be your biggest challenge if you are elected?
When several thousand people were marching in front of the Urbana City building for police reform, I did not get the impression that Urbana lacked a desire for change. I think participation has to do with the fact that people don't expect change when they approach their local government. And that's essentially what we've seen of the sitting council, a tendency to simply follow what is provided in front of them and little indication that they would lead. I have a strong history to show that I would put forward all manner of legislation to make significant changes, and my biggest challenge would be convincing my fellow council members to go along with it. And that's why I hope there are some significant changes in the seats in this election cycle, and that'll continue to be my challenge whether I'm on the council or not, because I'm not going to stop working on these issues. If I don't get elected, I'm going to continue working on them just as hard as I have been. So,
okay, thank you. Next question.
Michelle,
Mhm.
we need to move on to closing statements.
Okay, thank you very much. All righty, thank you, candidates. It is now time for closing statements. Mr. Evans, we'll begin with you first.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity. It's been a great discussion. I learned a lot. My priorities are going to be, reforming the police and hopefully invest in poor communities, low-income housing, and substance abuse treatment, mental health treatment, and housing for the formerly incarcerated would be my main priorities. I'm also interested in a fully funded library. I would like to put the $54,000 back into the budget that the Urbana City of Urbana took out. I would like to keep the public arts program funded, and I would like to change get rid of the FOIA fees that are an obstacle for poor people to access their government. And so those will be my main issues if elected. I've enjoyed the process and learned a lot tonight. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Closing statement.
Well, thank you again for holding this very valuable forum. There are many important issues facing Urbana now and in the next few years, from the new comprehensive plan, protecting what's great about our ward, revitalizing the downtown, sustainability in the environment, support for high quality schools, and social justice. As an alderman, I look forward to working with the community, hearing what they would like to see for our community and making that come to fruition. And I offer a mature, fact-based, problem-solving approach and direct communication. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Hanson, next closing statement.
Thanks for hosting. I'm a candidate who has no affiliation with any entrenched politicians. I gathered all my own petition signatures. I started what I'm doing from scratch, and I'm truly independent, and I intend to stay that way and stay true to my own principles and to the interests of the residents of Ward 2. I think this is important because Urbana has some fundamental governance problems, such as free speech, transparency, open meetings, public records, and those problems are well documented on checkcu.org. If you're not familiar with them, I encourage you to go read the articles I've written. These problems tend to be exacerbated by a tendency for those in power to stay agreeable to their friends rather than pursuing what is best for the people. And like I said, my allegiance is to my own principles and to the residents of Ward 2 and no one else. And I'm not afraid to voice an opinion or an idea, even if it puts me at opposition with everyone else in the room. And I have demonstrated that many times. If the residents of Ward 2 wish to see real change and improvements to our government, we're going to need council members who are capable of more than just good intentions and flowery language. It's going to require some serious dedication, some legal expertise, and a willingness to shoulder burdens that the current administration is unwilling to shoulder. I'm the only candidate who has demonstrated that level of dedication and skill, and I think I'm the only candidate who is prepared to actually write legislation and bring my own legal advisors when needed. Right now, the posture of the city of Urbana is one of a follower. Our administration has a way of searching for the bare minimum to get by, and I think Urbana could be a leader. I think a year or two from now, other municipalities in the state of Illinois can be looking at Urbana saying, hey, look at what Urbana is doing for police, or wow, Urbana has the strongest transparency and public records policies of any city in the state. So I think that's the path that Urbana can take, and I think I'm the right person to bring us in that direction. And like I said, I'm going to keep working on it, whether I'm on the council or not. So thanks for your time.
Thank you, candidates. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters of Champaign County, the NAACP, and the News-Gazette for sponsoring of this forum. Thanks to our timer, Jonah Von Behrens, who has kept us on schedule. A very special thanks once again to Jonah Von Behrens, who put this series of forums together. Just a reminder, it's not too late to register to vote for the February 23rd primary. Information is available on the county clerk's website. Please vote by mail, vote early, or vote on February the 23rd. Because turnout is expected to be light, please check your polling place for February the 23rd. Please vote. We will now take a short break. Our next forum will be for Alderman Ward 3. Thank you, candidates.